Welcome to GlideChat, where we give you the rundown of all things ServiceNow. Let's talk about the now, right now.
Thanks for joining our GlideChat today. I'm Torie Salem, our SVP of Sales here at GlideFast, and today I have Lyndsay Harris-Kyei with me, the Head of Social Impact at ServiceNow. Thanks for joining us today, Lyndsay, and making the time.
Of course, I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Let's start out with just, your role as Head of Social Impact at ServiceNow. What is ServiceNow's vision for social impact, and what's their positioning on social impact as a whole?
So at ServiceNow, we really think about how can we have an impact, but really connect it back to our business. So we think about our purpose, which is we make the world work better for everyone. But what do we need to do to have an impact within that space? So we actually think about access to opportunity, AI technology, and knowledge. Because if we can start to break down the barriers to access to the digital economy, then we can ensure that more people can have access to careers in tech and to be a part of this ecosystem that we truly believe is going to be the future. So we do that by focusing on two specific areas. So as I said, we focus broadly our efforts on AI technology, opportunity, and knowledge. But then our double click down for social impact is truly investing in our communities and planet, and also building a resilient workforce. And by doing that, we focus on a few investment focus areas, such as sustainable infrastructure, solar energy. How are we helping communities get closer to connectivity to the digital economy, supporting the communities in which we live and operate when they're impacted by a disaster, as well as skilling, reskilling, and socioeconomic development. Because if we know that if we always connect what we're doing back to our business, that's where we can really scale our impact. But we do it in a very collaborative sense with our customers and our partners, because we know we can't break down these barriers alone. So we're always thinking about how are we collaborating. And we utilize a few resources in order to do that. We think about our partnerships with nonprofit organizations, our employees, volunteering, including pro bono, but also our technology, which can be a huge opportunity for many nonprofits to think about how technology can create greater efficiencies for them.
Nonprofits are really important to the GlideFast family as well. It's kind of a core of how we operate and what keeps us passionate. And we've been working most closely with your team this year around the ServiceNow.org Partnership for Good grant. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what that is and what that program looks like?
Absolutely. And it wasn't the first time that we've actually collaborated on this, right? We've worked in similar capacity with an organization called Career Village to help them utilize our technology. So when we were thinking about the grant program this year, thinking about how you envision impact, it really aligned well for the ServiceNow.org Partnership for Good grant. The ServiceNow.org Partnership for Good grant really focuses on specific categories of nonprofits, and so that they can apply within their category and we can utilize our software to help drive impact. So each of our partners align with a specific category, whether that be cause and cure, like how GlideFast is participating, sustainability and decarbonization efforts, youth and education services. So we really think about broadly, how are we going to help these organizations create greater efficiency? And we do that by partnering very closely with our partners to deliver ServiceNow software, the instance, the licenses, as well as pro bono implementation, which is that beautiful partnership between both ServiceNow and our partner ecosystem to help drive impact. But we also understand that nonprofits are going to do this in a fairly quick timeline. So we want to make sure that they have the resources in order to make this transition. So each of us also offer a $50,000 unrestricted cash grant to the recipient, which totals out to $100,000 in that calendar year to the nonprofit, but they'll also receive the technology for 3 years. And this ensures that they can see the possibilities of the ServiceNow platform, but also utilize it to create greater efficiencies.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know we're really excited about the folks that have applied this year for our specific grant, and we're really looking forward to moving forward with them, hopefully in the next couple of months. But it's a really exciting and I think just a fun thing to be part of. And there's a lot of, it helps. It feels good when you help people. So it changes up our day-to-day a little bit. When it comes to nonprofits, what do you think some of the biggest challenges that nonprofits face today are? Right, I think with technology and AI and all these different tools evolving really quickly, making them available to them is huge. Do you think are there other things in play that you think impact the challenges that they are facing today?
Well, I say nonprofits know their business best, right? They know the resources that they need, they know their community, and it's our job to partner with them and ensure that we're providing the resources that we have available to enable them to successfully run their business. And I think the more we as businesses can reflect on those resources and provide nonprofits with the opportunity to access those so that they can create greater efficiencies and serve their constituents and their populations and their communities better, that's where we can really have an impact. Because I think every nonprofit, different industries, just like commercial business, they all have different challenges. So it's our job to really reflect on where we can have an impact, which for ServiceNow is technology. It is partnering with our partners in our commercial ecosystem to drive impact through the one resource that we really have available. So I always look at it as, how do you listen to the community and understand what the nonprofit needs, and then reflect inward to ensure that you're utilizing your resources to have the greatest capacity by enabling them to create greater efficiencies and really build their business.
Yeah. And you can tell the passion when you talk about this kind of stuff and the knowledge that you have within the throughout nonprofit organizations. So what's a pivotal moment in your career that really made you lean in towards the nonprofit work and solidify your commitment to nonprofits?
I was in college and I was very unclear about what my major would be, right? I was marketing, and then I thought maybe I'll go into nutrition, and I couldn't figure out up from down, and I was just really in that exploratory phase. And then I took a world affairs class, and it really cemented, and it was the first time that I was just really interested in the content and exploring more and wanting to expand. So that class, I remember, as this pivotal moment to kind of opening up my eyes and saying, actually, I would love to do something kind of in the impact space. And it ignited something with me. And that was really the catalytic moment in my life that then I decided to go to grad school for international affairs and human rights. And from there, it became really apparent to me that focusing on nonprofits and impact work is incredible. But I really wanted to lean into how business drives impact, because I think that's a really powerful moment and opportunity. And I think at that time as well, sustainable development goals were really starting to come to fruition. So it was just kind of the stars had aligned in that moment that it made sense for me to continue on this path of impact, but really focus on how can business drive change.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm pretty convinced we shouldn't be forced to pick what we should do for the rest of our lives when we're 17. But it's amazing that you had that moment. How'd you get into ServiceNow?
About 4 years ago, almost to the day, actually, it might even be to the day. Yeah, thank you. I had just had a series of conversations. I was at a clinical trial technology company, and I had just had a series of conversations with leadership at ServiceNow. And at the time, they were building the Global Impact Program, and they had said, would you be interested in coming over and help us build it? And, absolutely, that's kind of what I love, is building from the ground up. Yeah. So when I joined ServiceNow, it was a blank slate, right? They had just done their first ESG report. It was being announced, released the following month. And it was just really beautiful opportunity to build something from the ground up. So we started with our focus areas. Where did we want to focus? Collaborating internally, figuring out where the company could drive impact. And once again, getting to build something from the ground up is just really exciting and powerful. It was 4 years ago.
That's awesome. I know I've actually done a couple QBRs even where we've just volunteered for the QBR during the day. I feel like there's a lot of that throughout organizations and teams within ServiceNow that lean towards having the ability and, like you said, the privilege to be able to have some sort of impact.
Yeah. And also we take a global approach always, which I greatly appreciate. So we have these focus areas But the fact is they should be localized. They're going to look and feel different in every community. So we have global impact councils in 21 locations across the globe, and they really help us provide feedback. If there's a natural disaster that happens in their community, they know what's happening better than us. So they help us drive that impact, but also localize those efforts. Sustainability in New York City is going to look very different than sustainability elsewhere. So we really try to make sure that we're localizing those efforts.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. What is the most surprising thing you've learned working in this space, whether it be nonprofit focused or ServiceNow focused?
The most surprising thing, well, I would say there is an opportunity for resources, right, to be to better utilize as well. And I think being more on the kind of the tech side, you really just see immense opportunity for nonprofits to get access to the same technology that for-profits have. You hear Vanessa Smith, our president of ServiceNow.org, say this all the time, and it really resonates that for-profits get access to the best of the best when it comes to technology. But truthfully, we also need to think about how do we democratize technology so that everyone can have access. And that's where I really think it always surprises me, but I think it's just immense opportunity of how do we start thinking about utilizing those resources to make sure that nonprofits in this ecosystem can also kind of scale and grow.
Yeah, and I think some of how they're using the technology is really interesting. I think the use cases that come out of it and the stories that come out of them being able to utilize ServiceNow are always really interesting stories, and the benefits that they see are pretty astronomical when it comes to them adopting and maintaining a technology platform within their organization. Do you have a favorite customer story?
I don't think I have a favorite customer story because I think they're all so unique.
Yeah.
But what I think is really fascinating is, especially from kind of the commercial lens, we always think about our technology in an enterprise mindset, right? So how can a platform be used across an ecosystem? And I'm always just delighted and astonished by the innovation of individuals who are using the ServiceNow platform, but in places that you wouldn't expect. So for example, we work with an organization called Ndlovu, which is based out of South Africa, and they started using the ServiceNow platform to take their theory of change and help track malnourished children, then the interventions they were doing for these children in their community. And it's these kind of really innovative use cases of how the technology can be used that it inspires me every day and pushes me and my team and many at ServiceNow to think differently about how our technology can be utilized. So it's always the innovation and the ideas. We work with organizations that are working with youth across the globe and how they're utilizing AI, and just these ideas that are coming out of them are just amazing to see how they're automatically thinking about how can technology be used to transform their community. And I just think it's really powerful, and they're the future. And I think those are just the moments where I get really excited for how technology can be used to drive impact.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we were part of one at Career Village that leveraged some AI, and it has a lot to do with building up the community. We can put a plug. We did a GlideChat with the platform owner there for us. We can plug that in here too. But they're always really exciting to be part of. And I think there's just a lot of passion and excitement around it too when they're able to start leveraging ServiceNow as a whole. For SPGG, and social impact overall at ServiceNow over the next 5 years, what are some of your goals for these programs as they continue to scale and grow throughout the ServiceNow ecosystem?
I think adaptability is number one. The ecosystem is always changing, right? 5 years ago, you wouldn't have convinced me that we were going to be dealing with a pandemic, right? Well, now over 5 years ago. But I think we always have to be ready to adapt. And that's the most important thing. And my team and I work really closely on this, of thinking about how do we set a foundation, whether it be ServiceNow.org Partnership for Good grant or any program that can adapt and scale with time. And I think that's the most important thing. Social impact does take a long time, right? Some of the best interventions you see last 10 to 20 years, and you're not going to have the data to really determine how you're going to have an impact until you truthfully get the luxury of time. But I think adaptability is really important, and making sure in an ever-changing ecosystem that we're building a foundation that can adapt.
Yeah, in an ever-changing world.
Exactly.
And how do you and your team, how do you measure success and the impact of the work you guys are doing right now with those long time frames? What is something that you guys focus on in the near term to measure what that is for you?
So we partner always really closely with our nonprofit partnerships to understand, once again, what resources do we have available, what are their needs, and how can we lean into that? And listening is always a core part of that. But in order to drive impact and to really measure, we have 2 goals that we have set. So the first is we have a direct impact goal, which is to positively reach 20 million people by 2030. But that actually feeds into a much larger goal, which is how do we positively reach 1 billion people in partnership with our customers and our partners? And that's because we get the privilege and opportunity to directly and indirectly work with a lot of fantastic companies and organizations having an impact that might be utilizing the ServiceNow platform in their work in communities around the globe. So we actually have a methodology for calculating our impact, both directly, which is much more focused on our grants and our tech grants, both cash and tech grants, and what impact are those immediately driving, and that's what we call direct impact. But we also look at indirect impact, which is, because we get the privilege and honor to work with so many of these organizations, how far is our reach indirectly? And that's how we land at a billion. So we really just, like I said, it's the honor of working with all of these other organizations that really helps drive our impact. But we like to take a measurable approach because we want to make sure that we're partnering with the right organizations and that we're utilizing our resources to their greatest capacity.
Yeah. And I mean, those are amazing stats to just do check-ins on too and keep people updated on as you continue to grow. That's awesome. Anything, I know the applications for grants this year are done. Is there anything or anywhere you want people to go to learn more about the program or to see when they can apply if there's interest?
I would say always reach out. I think while we have these really standardized programs, we also are really focused on always scaling and thinking about other new and exciting opportunities to drive impact. So we always launch the ServiceNow.org Partnership for Good grant in the beginning of the year. So that's when the grant applications go out. But we have many other programs. So I always encourage, our employees and anyone in the community who has a nonprofit that they would recommend to always reach out. And we're happy to explore those opportunities because I just think there's so much goodness happening in the world. There's no way for us to know everything that's happening. So we also encourage our customers and partners to do the same thing, because sometimes the greatest impact we can have is actually when a customer or partner brings a nonprofit to us that they're also working with. And that's where you really start to break down silos and barriers and really focus more of your impact on how can we jointly support a nonprofit. So those are the partnerships that we really love to see too.
Yeah, that's awesome. With Knowledge coming up in May, I'm assuming you guys will be there and have information for people. Any place specific that you want people to join or look for you guys?
Well, we're always kind of trickled throughout, which is fantastic. But obviously, we align really closely to ServiceNow.org. So definitely kind of lean in and learn more about what they're doing, because we're very closely aligned. And I think when social impact and business unite, which is kind of the premise behind ServiceNow.org, I think that's where the true magic happens. So definitely be on the lookout for that.
Awesome. Yep. Everybody wins when that happens. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Lyndsay. It was great chatting and looking forward to doing more and spending more time with your team this year.
Yeah. Thank you all so much.
Do you have a topic in mind that you'd like to discuss? Reach out to us at glidefast.com and subscribe to our podcast for new episodes. Thanks for listening.